Born on April the 21st, 1926, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary was the first child of the then Duke and Duchess of York. As King Edward's 8th niece, she wasn't destined to rule, but at the age of 10, her uncle abdicated, and the course of her life changed forever as she suddenly became heir to the throne.
We are trying to do all we can to help our gallant sailors, soldiers and airmen. And we are trying too to bear our own share of the danger and sadness of war.
It was the start of the Second World War when a teenage Princess Elizabeth began public duties. She joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, which trained her to drive and repair trucks.
By her example, perhaps more than her service, she served her country.
And like thousands of others, she had a sweetheart in the forces. Her third cousin, young naval officer Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten. Shortly after her 21st birthday in 1947, they married at Westminster Abbey.
Elizabeth and Philip waved their thanks to the happy cheers from below.
The following year, she had a son, Prince Charles, and 2 years later, a daughter, Princess Anne. Then, in 1952, while the royal couple were on tour in Kenya, the news came through that Elizabeth's beloved father, King George VI, had died. And at 25, she had become Queen.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
Her coronation took place a year later, in 1953. In the 10 years after being crowned, her popularity grew, along with the royal family. First the arrival of Prince Andrew, and then Prince Edward. As a committed head of the Commonwealth, the Queen has visited every nation, often repeatedly. In the 60s, she flew to a remarkable 28 countries in total. The 70s and the 80s were a mix of triumph and turmoil.
A day of tragic violence in Ireland. Lord Mountbatten of Burma has been killed by an explosion on his yacht off the Republic's coast.
Then, in the 1990s, the Queen entered perhaps the most difficult decade of her reign, divorce and devastation.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. In the words of one of my more sympathetic correspondents, it has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
But there was worse to come with the death of Princess Diana in 1997. The Queen made an unprecedented live broadcast.
As your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart, first, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
5 years later, in 2002, the Queen faced more personal tragedy, losing her sister, Princess Margaret, and then Queen Elizabeth, the Queen's mother, 2 months later. But that summer was also one of celebration, as the Queen marked her Golden Jubilee. A decade later, golden became diamond. 4 days of celebrations ensued to mark the Queen becoming only the second monarch in history to reach such a milestone. On the 9th of September 2015, she became the longest-serving monarch Britain had ever seen, surpassing the reign of her great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. The same year, her 5th great-grandchild was born. She now has 12. But in her 90s, the Queen was confronted with a number of crises within the royal family. Her grandson, Prince Harry, and his wife Meghan made a surprise announcement that they no longer wished to be senior royals and were, in effect, quitting the firm, a decision which Her Majesty said she was saddened by.
I will always have the utmost respect for my grandmother, my Commander-in-Chief, And I'm incredibly grateful to her and the rest of my family for the support they have shown Meghan and I over the last few months.
Following Harry's departure, the Queen faced another scandal, this time surrounding her son, Prince Andrew, and his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The Duke of York was stripped of his titles and sacked of royal duties after settling a civil sexual assault case, paying his accuser what is believed to be a multi-million-pound sum. At the time, Britain was in the midst of an unprecedented global pandemic, and the Queen had been integral in helping steer the nation through, even making a rare special address to the British public during lockdown.
We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
But it was in April 2021 that the Queen was dealt the biggest blow when her husband of nearly 74 years, her strength and stay, the Duke of Edinburgh, died at the age of 99. Ever the dedicated public servant, Queen Elizabeth picked herself up and threw herself back into official duties.
There you are.
Just 4 days after his death. Her Majesty's own health came under the spotlight when, in October 2021, she spent a night in hospital having precautionary tests. A few months later, she tested positive for COVID and was forced to cancel a string of engagements and appearances. In recent months, worsening mobility problems led to her pulling out of a number of key events, including Remembrance Sunday and the state opening of Parliament. For the first time in 59 years, she missed the speech, having only missed 2 in the past due to pregnancies. And in an historic change of protocol, granted powers to her son and heir, Prince Charles.
Her Majesty looks forward to the celebrations taking place across the United Kingdom and throughout the Commonwealth.
In April 2022, Queen Elizabeth reached the remarkable age of 96. And achieved the major historical milestone of 70 years on the throne, with her Platinum Jubilee marked by celebrations and commemorations up and down the country. But just a few months after those celebrations, health concerns continued when she was forced to cancel a planned appearance at the Braemar Highland Games with her son, Prince Charles. Throughout the course of her 70-year reign, she has missed the event on just a handful of occasions. And another change of tradition came when, for the first time in her reign, Her Majesty welcomed the latest Prime Minister to Balmoral instead of Buckingham Palace. The Queen officially declared Liz Truss the third female leader of the United Kingdom on September the 6th. But the next day was forced to cancel a Privy Council meeting in which she was supposed to officially swear in her cabinet. Doctors told Her Majesty to rest after a full day. Until the end, she continued, when health would allow, to uphold her appearances, often with her family by her side. During her 70-year reign, Queen Elizabeth has carried out more than 30,000 royal engagements, visited 110 countries, seen the rise and fall of 15 prime ministers, met with 13 US presidents, and has become patron of more than 600 charities. She leaves behind 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren, along with an unrivaled legacy and an unquestionable commitment to her country.